nuts. And it is the path to the disempowerment of the pain. When we enter into the pain, we are no longer frozen by it. It is an active process. An active process. It is not a passive process. Choosing to enter more deeply into our pain, suffering, and grief is a courageous, active, spiritual act. And when we do, it begins to reduce us to our core. It rips away all of the artifice in our life, all of the labels, all of the preconceptions. It is like a fire purifying. Spiritual metal, your soul is being purified. You see, it takes away all of the ego. Everything that defines the ego, all the roles, it all goes away. Have you ever had the flu? Raise your hand. Or flu or a similar sickness? Now, the night before you woke up feeling like a Mack truck ran you over and then backed up slowly over you once again. The night before, you were likely thinking about all those projects that you had before you the next day. It's like, oh my God, how am I going to get all that done? There is so much to do. Even those things you love. There is so much I love to do. How am I going to get it all done? You may have looked at yourself in the mirror, and even though you were going to bed, you cared about how you looked. Especially if somebody was waiting for you. And you might have been thinking about that one or two last movies that you had to get in, that you had to see before the Oscars. Yes. Because there's all this buzz. Everybody else has seen them. I've got to too. And then you wake up the next morning feeling flattened. And all of a sudden, work doesn't matter. Your appearance doesn't matter. That movie certainly doesn't matter. All of your time, attention, and energy is focused on that next breath. Everything is stripped away. You are reduced to your core being. Now, this is an example of physical suffering. And it applies equally, in my experience, to emotional and psychological suffering and grief. It is the same process. It reduces us to our core. When you are reduced to your core, to your essence, you see the world clearly. You see what matters most. And this is the gift within grief, as we allow it. Rabbi Gewirtz had another congregant, a wife and mother, whose husband never left one of the twin towers at the World Trade Center on 9/11. That morning, he called her from his cell. He said, "Honey, I love you." And the phone went dead. In the days, weeks, months, and years to come, this woman, each and every day, had two choices to make. She could either become frozen in her pain. She could deny her new reality. And on some levels of being, say it didn't happen. Or she had the choice to dive more deeply into the pain, to understand the pain, the suffering, the grief. She chose the latter. She embraced it. And she discovered something very precious, that she now had, even as much as she would have changed that day, as much as she would want her husband back, she would have done anything in the world she could to have her husband back. She discovered aspects of her ability to love that she never knew before, and she was a very warm, giving, loving wife and mother before. And she discovered more that she had to give, that she had no clue about. There is, I want to be clear about one thing, that suffering is not the only way to this path. There are others. They feel better. They're funner. Like unadulterated joy. The kind of unadulterated joy we experience in our family, in our friendships, with our children, out in nature. I mean, Greg, it was frigidly cold. When I was in that on ski lift going up, and I had my fingers tucked in because they were freezing in my glove. I looked around at all the nature and the snow coming down, and I was in joy. I was enjoying it. I was lost in the moment. There wasn't a scintilla of ego around. I want to share this from Science of Mind magazine. We do almost anything to avoid being in pain. We hide, overeat, drink too much, and move from relationship to relationship in order to escape. The interesting thing is that we are not aware that the pain is communicating to us what we need to know. It is trying to show us old wounds that need to be healed so we can move into a greater dimension of joy. Pain communicates to us what we need to know, where we need to look, what we need to pay attention to. The pain that shows up in our lives, in my belief, it's not preordained. It's not preordained. And it does have a use. It does have a purpose. It helps to expose our truest self, to open us up even more fully. Bless you. Twice. I said earlier that the beginning of all healing was the understanding that we can't really know why. Not really. To release that need. That's the beginning. Here's the second step. The second step is admitting that we need help. When we are grieving, admitting that we need help and our willingness to ask for it. This is an incredibly, absolutely essential step, asking for help. I can speak to this because I have this voice. There's a voice in my head that sometimes, not all the time, sometimes says, you must look strong. You must look capable. Good God, man, you're the minister. You have to look like you're in control. What rubbish. What silly rubbish. We came into this world utterly dependent. Utterly dependent. Many of us will leave this world in a similar condition. We are always dependent. We are always dependent upon one another every single moment of our lives, without exception. When you're grieving, be willing family, ask your friends, ask your clergy, ask your counselors. And when you do, something else happens. As soon as you ask for help, another human being receives a call. They receive a call. They receive a sacred call to be with you. And it is not a calling to fix us. Be really clear on that. There's nothing you have to fix. It is not a calling to speak a lot of words. You hardly have to say anything except, I'm here. I'm with you. I love you. That's all you have to say. Your friend will say anything else that needs to be said. And you have the joy of witnessing them, witnessing their heart, their soul, their life, being part of a sacred process. The most precious thing that you can give another human being is your full and complete heart-centered attention at any time to anyone, and especially in times of grief. There's one last concept I wish to share this morning, and that is the new normal. Whenever we've lost something or someone, what is it we want in the next instant? We want it back. We want whatever we lost or whoever we want them back. We want things to be the same as they were before. Every one of us wants that. We want things to be the same as they were before. Jean's meditation spoke to this so beautifully, so eloquently. And Maddie's words. That's what Maddie's words spoke to. But it happened. But it happened. Bless you as well. In our normal grieving process, and grieving is absolutely normal. Absolutely normal. Allow yourself, see, diving into the pain is allowing yourself to feel all of it. Not to deny any of it or to resist any of it, because if you do, it just gets bottled up in there. Remember the chakras discussion a couple weeks ago? That chakra energy gets locked up real low, and there's no flow. So you allow yourself to feel. And in feeling it, you are no longer isolated in it. When you share your pain with another person, when you speak it to another, when they hear it, a holy relationship has been formed. And in that sharing, the pain begins to lose its power, its fear, its control. You can share anything in your life, anything you've experienced, anything you felt, anything you've done with friends and family and clergy and counselors. And at the end of that sharing, you will both still be standing or sitting